It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Just when you thought that the situation around the Scream movie franchise has not gotten worse with the big stinker that we've actually seen from Scream 7, it only gets worse. It looks like some of the big fat cats up there holding on to the franchises of these favorite horror movies such as Scream and other things like that are unfortunately deciding to file lawsuits for Funworld, apparently, which is the company that actually owns the Ghostface masks, and they decided they wanted to cut in and actually try to make a quick buck out of them. And we're gonna go ahead and include a clip here from Slasher Radio. You can watch the full video on your own so that you guys can get a little bit of context.
Studios, owned by Tony Gardner, recently came forward stating they created the original design for the infamous Ghostface mask before Funworld, and are the creators of the mask, and are asking for no less than $200 million in statutory damages for copyright infringement and a legal ruling that Funworld has no right to license out the Ghostface mask. Before the lawsuit, Alterian and Tony Gardner reportedly demanded millions of dollars from Paramount and Spyglass to avoid litigation ahead of the Scream 7 release, even threatening to delay the film just weeks before its release. Paramount and Spyglass were the ones to initiate the lawsuit. Pretty much it was a preemptive strike by Paramount and Spyglass, because if they initiated the suit, from being able to sue them first and potentially cause an issue with Scream 7's release.
So you heard it there from Slasher Radio. Visual video is linked in the description, of course, if you want to watch the full thing. But yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, it looks like we have yet another situation of similar to the Friday the 13th situation, where literally they are trying to, you know, make a quick buck off of the mere fact that there is a big buzz around a certain license, and they finally remembered that they had some kind of tie to it, or want to like pull out something out of their buttholes to try to make a quick buck off of something that's been, you know, pretty popular. Now, I can't say that the Scream 7 movie was that good anyway, but regardless, it still is important to note that this is not the first time we've seen this, obviously. And that's why the Friday the 13th game had actually just kind of, that was dead in the water pretty much because of that same reason. And it's really unfortunate. And I will mention, if you want to watch the full video, like I've said in the description, because it actually breaks down like the history behind the mask and things like that, you can definitely go ahead and do that. And they also talk about if they will remove Ghostface from DVD. Now, one thing that's pretty much a concern is, like, because Friday the 13th kind of like, you know, was pretty much nuked because of that lawsuit, what's going to happen to the Ghostface character in DVD? Now, it's unlikely that it will affect the Ghostface character that much, because like I've stated before, and like how they stated in the video, the character in DVD has nothing to do with the Scream franchise, has nothing to do with anything really, besides just it being an original character that happens to have a licensed, you know, cosmetic, if you will, because they pretty much can keep the rest of the character. They will just have to change the name most likely, but the character itself, Danny Johnson, is an original character that Behavior created, so that will most likely stay. They can probably just change the name and just change the mask to something else, and they would probably be fine. And they would probably have to change the perk icons and all that kind of stuff. But what does that really mean, right? But the character's power probably stays the same. Everything else pretty much will probably stay the same, besides like a couple of text or something like that. We already know that. Because, and that's for some reason people still confuse it, which I still don't understand it, but hey. Regardless, it's a bit of a stinky pile of duty. You know what I'm saying? Because unfortunately, this doesn't happen with other stuff. Like, we don't ever see any situations like this with other licenses or other things like that within, you know, any media, besides, it seems like, just horror movies lately. Correct me if I'm wrong, obviously. Maybe it's happened before. You can let me know in the comment section if that is the case, but still, I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's pretty bad. And arguably kind of bled into everything else in the horror genre, ASIM sort of genre type of thing, because Friday the 13th could have been a decent contender for Dead by Daylight, and now they can't do that. Now DVD goes uncontested, and that also touches on if maybe the Halloween game could come out and hopefully contest DVD once more, but that has yet to be seen. Speaking on that also briefly is the fact that, as you probably have seen in the clip, they were even trying to prevent the movie from being released. So they're really trying to go after everybody's pockets. They're really trying to, make a quick buck. Which I'm assuming that they're probably like, maybe they're like losing money, or maybe the company's irrelevant to some extent, that they're actually going around and trying to dig in people's pockets to get some kind of funding and ruin everybody's fun. I guess they're hating, they're mad that the Scream franchise is actually doing well. And yeah, I mean, we just have to see what's happening here now. What are they going after specifically is going to be the Funworld license, and that specifically, Funworld, if you're not aware, are people that's like the company that has the Ghostface mask, that has a bunch of costumes that you guys are probably familiar with or have actually bought in the past, around Halloween. And so what they pretty much do is like distribute and basically sell it over to the Halloween stores and other places like that to actually get those things for purchase, right? So what Scream usually has to do is they have to go ahead and speak to Funworld and be like, hey, we need the license for the mask. We're gonna make this movie, for Scream, blah blah blah, and then they cut a deal. So that's pretty much when you buy a costume from Funworld that's supposedly like the Ghostface, which you'll notice even in the text, it'll say Ghostface face. You'll see like a little space, and it'll say like, oh, like, from like blah 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 Scream on the front. Usually the costume looks nothing like the movies, but either way, they still have that tie-in. They still kind of have like a mutual thing. So that's where a lot of the mask really comes from in like video games, whether it be Call of Duty. They would have to go from Spyglass, whatever the hell else owns Scream. They also have to contact Funworld and make an agreement. So like when Call of Duty had it, they had to contact both. When Mortal Kombat has it, they had to contact both of them. When DVD contacted them, they just went specifically to Funworld, and all we got was the mask. So obviously that's why we end up getting the Danny Johnson original character that has nothing to do with the Scream franchise. Just happens to wear the mask, I guess. So with that being said, what is the future for Ghostface and DVD? Now, keeping in mind that, like I've said just now, like this character is an original character in DVD, chances are nothing's gonna happen. Chances are he's gonna be fine. All they will have to do is just change out the mask for something else. They'll just have to, change out the, like the name, probably like the add-ons, like will probably change and stuff like that, like the names on it. But the power and everything else is still an original, sort of decision that they created. It has nothing to do with the mask itself. So that also means that people who do own the cosmetics, like myself, like others, will not be losing it, because we've even seen that with with Hellraiser. We've seen that with the Halloween removal. You're still gonna keep those things, so it's not like he completely leaves the game entirely. But he probably would not be able to be purchased. I think they would have to either like make it a free character, kind of like Bill, or they would have to like sort of like resell it potentially if they were to decide to do that. But they would have to completely change the character and the name and everything else. They can still keep him as Danny Johnson, but they would just have it like where his mask isn't the Ghostface mask. It's just a different mask he decided to create. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much fine. Now, like I've also mentioned, I'm going to mention, I should say, in this video, you can actually check out the video from Slasher Radio, who does break down the history behind the mask and how that affects the games and stuff like that. But I will say, as a fan, like I'm just not really surprised. Like I knew that it was coming. I knew that, like, especially because if you take into account the fact that this happened with Friday the 13th. You know, it was going well, right? The game was like doing decent. They were like doing their thing. All of a sudden, somebody came along and wanted to get a piece of the pie. And then it just completely nukes everything else, right? Like everything else that we as fans could enjoy, nah, that's gone. You can't do that anymore. That's against the rules. So that part's really unfortunate. And, you know, hopefully, you know, maybe one day we won't see that as often. But I also don't think that this is even very common with a bunch of other franchises. I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, it's just insane, man. And they decided to continue using the mask actually within the movie regardless. The movie Scream 7 was pretty horrible, I will admit. It was pretty bad. And apparently there's actually going to be Scream 8 as well. So I think they're probably going to continue probably using the same thing, most likely, because I don't think the lawsuit is really going to go through. Like, it just doesn't make any sense that they somehow created this mask when we've never heard any history of that ever being the case. Like that, at least that I've heard, at least that I've seen, that I've read up on, it doesn't really seem as if like they actually did have any part in creating it. I could be wrong, but that's just sort of where I'm standing at with that. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. At least we can say that as DVD players, we're gonna be fine. Like, I'm pretty sure we're gonna be fine. Probably the same thing with other games that the mask does appear in. We're probably just fine. Like, I don't think there's really going to be any you know, if you already own it, you're good. If you don't, then, you know, you're not gonna be able to buy it again, obviously. But yeah, it's just a bit of a pain, you know what I mean? Like, why does this have to happen to all the stuff that we like, you know? But yeah, I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section, man. Let me know what you think about the situation at hand here. That's all I really have for you guys. See you guys later. All right, let's go ahead and read off these wonderful members. We got Patreon, Crow Vader. All my YouTube members, Brando, Evil Blade, Cap Courteous, WTF You're Not J-Lo, Evil Peach, Hargan Falcon, Dole Whip, Noxus, Zero Mocker, Jack, Christian, and Crow Vader. Really appreciate you guys supporting, man. And if you also subbed on Twitch, just know that you got love coming your way too. Appreciate you guys, man.